welcome to part 2. Now that we defeated Kamoshida, what do we do now? Well, first we get Sai showing up, questioning about the recent change of heart that occurred that seems similar to the mental shutdowns from before. Otherwise, we go visit Awai to sell him the medal for 30,000 yen and carry out some bag for him, containing a real gun. Or close enough to one, that we can come back later to have him become a confidant. After that, we go to this hotel with a fancy buffet to enjoy. We chat about how everyone at school is talking about our secret group. There's even a website dedicated to us now, a fan site, if you will. And we overhear adults talking about the incident with mixed reactions. Almost seems to look like they're the snooty type. The boys go to the bathroom and have a run-in with the bald guy from Ren's hometown. Earlier there was a scene where you controlled him into going up to the guy, and you can clearly tell these two are alike, yet for some reason, Ren doesn't seem to recall what he looked like or who he was. Names are one thing, voice is another, but even this didn't look too dark to not notice his face. Still, it seems there are crappy adults all over the place, so we think that if they have palaces, perhaps they could use a change of heart as well. We could take this chance to help those who aren't able to help themselves and make the world a better place. We even get to name our group, though it's just for the online mode since we still get called Phantom Thieves. Meanwhile, our principal is sending the school council president, Makoto Nijima, as in she is the sister of Sai, to investigate into the matter regarding Kamoshida's change of heart. She even talks with us since all three of us were victims of his in some way, and now that we're getting together a lot, it makes us look suspicious. Also, Mishima not only made the fan site, but he pretty much knows who we are despite our options to say we aren't. Yeah, that tends to happen quite a lot with him during his Confidant events. Still, he implemented a poll that will now show up in most transition cutscenes that show our approval rating and comments left by users. It's scary accurate to how some people act in real life. Speaking of the site, Morgana takes this chance to show everyone a place he's been wanting to explore with us. First, we take a request with a full name attached, then instead of using the place and distortion as keywords, we just put in Mementos, and we end up inside this game's version of Tartarus. Mementos, as Morgana explains, is the palace of the general public. Those whose hearts aren't distorted enough to form their own palaces are shared with everyone else's down here. Since this place is like a massive network of subway tunnels, we need to get around by riding inside of Morgana.
For some reason, cats turning into buses is an extremely widespread cognition among the general public.
All aboard! Let's go!
Why are you all just sitting back there? I'm a car, remember? I'm not going anywhere unless someone drives me.
You can't drive yourself?
Hey, at least now you have a legitimate way to reference Night at the Roxbury. And I'm not joking either. Okay, so the way Mementos works is this. You need to find your way to the inner depths of this place by the time you hit the last major day in the story, meaning you need to search for stairs that take you further downstairs. Unlike Tartarus though, you can go back upstairs, but regardless, entering a floor will change the layout and the placement of enemies and items. Said two are from palaces you've been to before, and even have shadows you might not have faced yet. You can even find rare shadows, which are introduced next palace, that only have one weakness, or at least an element you can attack them with, and killing them gives you a lot of experience and money. They can be captured and used as fusion material, and they give good skills to whatever they make. Now, ambushing them here is a little tricky since they move around so awkwardly, and you have this big bus to consider. Like, it's great for transport, but not so much when trying to attack from behind. More importantly, just as this tutorial shows, there are shadow people here who only appear after receiving a request, and then going over them at your hideout. They show up in certain floors, and the warp point to them is placed randomly like everything else. Their persona forms may also have a different affinity chart from what persona you have of them, so don't always rely on that for a guide. By defeating them, you get an item. Most of them are useful, though some are just for show. Doing requests given to you by Mishima will help progress his Confidant ranks, as he's one of a few who don't need the right persona to do it with, but you also get them from each of the non-party confidants as a means to progress past a certain rank. They're all worth doing just for the experience and money gains alone, and you can get good items out of this. Often it's best to accumulate as much requests as possible before going into Mementos, just to get many out of the way. Also, like Tartarus, Mementos is divided up into blocks, each containing a set number of floors and even safe rooms that you can quick travel to, along with the endpoints leading to the next block. They unlock as the story progresses, and they seem to believe it's caused by the public's interest in you. What could be at the bottom, though, that causes the shadow selves to ride down? Who knows? Anyway, we find the story target and kick his ass, and we learn that he became like this because of his evil teacher, Madarame. He even asks if we could change his heart as well. Well, not like we don't have any leads, so for now we just focus on midterms. Unlike the regular quizzes, you can't cheat on these, so you have to either remember or take notes on all the questions you've been getting in school. On the last day, you don't get a question, but rather a knowledge check to see if it's high enough for you to pass the rest of the topics not covered in-game. And while on the first exam you aren't able to, if you haven't maxed out and answered every question correctly, you'll be in the top 10 and get an item from Sojiro. Speaking of the last day though, we get stalked by our next party member, Yusuke Kitagawa, voiced by Matthew Mercer. He's an awkward fellow. He doesn't seem to understand that some of his actions aren't necessarily good or whatever. Supposedly, based on how people saw his general behavior, he might have some form of autism, and if that's the case, then cool. That's at least one person in our party who would fit in with Alice's attempt to represent marginalized people in this group of outcasts. Maybe An too, because she's biracial, but I'll save that for later. For now, we learn that the old man in the car is named Madarame, like what that one person mentioned before. And Yusuke even gives us tickets to come to an art exhibition, hoping to get An to pose for him in a painting he's trying to create. We end up accepting, since we can learn more about Madarame this way. Based on present-day Sai's description, he might be an abuser? Well, only one way of finding out. So far, nothing seems out of the ordinary. He seems like a humble artist who is capable of drawing in multiple, yet defined styles. Seems he lives in a shack, but we get pushed away before long. An seems to know more about art than the boys at least, and she notices one painting in particular that she feels the artist's anger from. It's something that even Yusuke acts strange around too. Either way, the boys did some digging and found that Madarame might be nice in public, but he might not be behind the scenes. Also, his name and the word shack show up on the Metaverse app, so he might have a palace. One post even says that he abuses his students, so that deserves going to his shack to learn more about him. Speaking of learning though, we're not even 2 palaces in and already we see that Sai's director has a hand in the mental shutdowns.
Human mind doesn't change that easily, let alone their natural temperament. Shujin Academy. Seems doubtful. Perhaps I'll have someone look into it, just in case.
We find the shack and ask Yusuke if the rumors about Madarame abusing and plagiarizing his students are true. He of course gets upset and denies such claims, even saying that Madarame took him in when he was orphaned as proof that he couldn't hate children. Madarame even shows up and acts kindly to not let it get to him, and it's just an honest mistake to believe in rumors.
Well, even I doubt that a cranky old man like myself could be liked by everyone.
Lastly, Yusuke tells us about a painting Madarame made called the Sayuri, which was said to have been stolen, but otherwise inspired him to become an artist. So, yeah, maybe we were wrong to think that Madarame was bad.
Hey, the app.
Was it picking up our conversation? This display. It means that Madarame has a palace too, right?
Or not. Guess adding plagiarism to the conversation triggered it into working. So he really does have a palace. Just need to find a distortion. We guess museum, and naturally, it takes us over. The shack has now become a large museum, and we're in costumes because Madarame heard us talking about the rumors, so his heart must be guarded slightly. That's why we only see shadows by the front entrance, and areas of the garden we can't get into. Sneaking inside, however, shows us some unsettling imagery. Turns out, Madarame has paintings of his pupils. Many former, and after reaching this large statue, called the Infinite Spring, it becomes clear. Madarame views his students as property who have to give him ideas, and if they aren't able to, they are worthless. This is definitely disturbing, and it's weird that Yusuke isn't saying anything about it. And even still, we need to actually confirm this with Yusuke. Meaning that An will have to accept the offer to pose for his painting. Morgana does some exploring and finds a strange door, but otherwise, we try talking with Yusuke about Madarame again. Even with An insisting that the one painting at the museum was his and not his master's, he insists that he just offers ideas to him and whatnot. Either way, he threatens to call the police on us, unless of course An poses again. In the nude. Yeah, he wasn't able to get anything out of her with clothes on, and he legitimately thinks a nude painting might work. We have until the end of the exhibition, which gives us our deadline to change Madarame's heart before he calls the police on us for slander. Oh, and hello, future confidant lady! Anyway, after getting confirmation from the guy whose heart we changed earlier that Madarame indeed is an asshole, we start our mission, after spending time with confidants. I'll go over the ones you manually upgrade toward the end, so let's just get right to the palace. So this place actually has lasers that increase security if we touch them, but we can just jump over or slide under most of them. Given the layout and design of this place, you could say it's inspired from real-life museums that have this sort of security. Morgana even gets most of us trapped, because he was attracted to this one treasure, so you have to bail them all out. Turns out it's because this was due to a treasure demon, aka the rare shadow enemy I mentioned before. All seems normal until you hit a dead end. This door, with no way to open, looks exactly like the one Morgana found in the shack. This is a special object of sorts that requires us to leave the metaverse and have us find a way to change the person's cognition in order to continue. In this case, we need to spend a day going back to Yusuke's place so Morgana can open the door and have Madarame see it. That way, his cognition makes it so that the unopenable door can be opened and we can prevent it from closing again inside the palace. This does mean taking Yusuke's offer to pose nude again, though An buys time.
You think so? I weigh the same as always. Maybe I'm bloated today.
So then, can you, get ready here?
I need to take my clothes off, right?
Oh.
That was tight.
Good thing she has so many layers, otherwise this would go beyond the M rating. Somehow, even with all her bad acting, Yusuke is buying every single word of hers. Madarame shows up, just in time for Morgana to open the lock, and she drags Yusuke into the storage room, while we go past the now opened door and beat up the one security guard to disable the security locks. More importantly, inside the storage room are many copies of the Sayuri. He claims they're handmade copies to sell to people because he's in severe debt, especially since the real Sayuri was stolen by one of his pupils. From how he phrases it, it sounds like how Yusuke described it. He's guilty, but not as bad as they made it? An has her doubts, since if he has a photocopy of the original as reference, he still shouldn't be able to do much. But then she pulls down the cloth over this one painting, and sure enough, it's the real Sayuri. It was never stolen at all, and he's been lying through his teeth. Naturally, he calls security on them, but they're able to get away by entering the metaverse.
I thought I was gonna die. Hey, will you let go already?
So now that he's here, we tell him that this world is how Madarame sees everything around him. Even after showing him the paintings of his former pupils, Yusuke still doubts what is happening. But then we see Shadow Madarame, who appears to be some shogun. His reason for keeping the real Sayuri a secret?
I found the real painting, but it can't go public. You can have it for a special price, though. Ha ha! How's that for preferential treatment? Art snobs will eat it up, and pay good cash at that.
Ah, so he's the kind of artist who will take advantage of people by creating fake stories to gain sympathy and whatnot. You know, there are many artists out there who struggle to make a living on creating artwork, and this guy goes and continually lies about his work and situations to get to where he is. Hell, he has another home, so financially he has it pretty well. Others aren't so fortunate, yet they deserve more than this bastard. So of course, Yusuke starts to see that Madarame only saw him as a means to ends, admitting that he didn't want to believe what was happening to him to be true, and undergoes his own awakening.
How foolish you averted your eyes from the truth. A deplorable imitation indeed. Lest you part from that aspect of yourself. I am thou, thou art I. The world is filled with both beauty and vice. It is time you teach people which is which.
Very well. Come. Goemon! The children who adored you as father. The prospects of your pupils. How many did you trample upon? How many dreams did you exchange for riches? No matter what it takes, I will bring you to justice! I am ready!
Sweet. With Goemon, Yusuke makes use of ice magic, but mostly has physical attacks. He uses katanas for melee combat, and has an assault rifle for ranged. Let's hope he's not a second amender. Anyway, Yusuke finally admits to us about the things that happened at home that seemed wrong but didn't want to admit that Madarame was bad for it. All because he raised him like a son, and that's pretty understandable. It would be hard for anyone to accept that loved ones are guilty of wrongdoings, or even worse, that they're being abused. Of course, like with Kamoshida, they would know about the abuse but either feel powerless or refuse to do anything about it. Still, knowing that Madarame is stealing art from his pupils, he wishes to join our group while putting a stop to his actions. Thus, the deadline incentive changes to where we all get arrested for even the earlier accusations. Still, now that we have Yusuke, codenamed Fox because of his attire, we can continue on to the rest of the palace. There's an interesting bit where we can go into the large paintings that are hung about to progress, and all the while we hear Madarame's voice complaining about how bad the world is and what these paintings mean to him. Essentially, it's everyone's fault that he's a bad artist and not him, despite mostly taking art from others to begin with. There's one major place of distortion that closely resembles the Relativity painting, but also has these paintings of Sayuri that we have to find the real one from the fakes, in order to progress through the doorways. Eventually, we find the treasure room, heavily guarded of course, and the security room nearby only has two worthwhile options. Open the door that leads further in, or shut down the power for a bit, which gets us into a fight. Still, we go further in and find a room just above the treasure, with a crane that lowers just far enough that we can steal the treasure under the cover of darkness. That's our plan anyway, so we leave for the day, and this time, for our calling card, Yusuke will redesign the art that Ryuji did so it looks more professional, while also ensuring that Madarame doesn't realize that Yusuke is after him. It works, as Madarame gets upset and his shadow increases security. Still, the plan is put into place, and I love how it looks. It's such a class act to steal with a crane under the cover of darkness, while lasers are in place. It almost seems like they're gonna go over the different ways thieves in fiction steal, wouldn't you think? They don't do anything else like this ever again. In fact, after getting away far enough, Morgana gets the temptation to look at the treasure early, and it's a fake? Well, we almost get caught again, and Shadow Madarame shows he still has the treasure. As Yusuke inquires what made him change, he reveals that he knew more about Yusuke's mother and her talents more than anything. Soon more apparent truths come when the treasure is revealed to be the actual Sayuri, one that has a baby in it and was a self-portrait of Yusuke's mother with him as the baby. He only covered the baby to add mystery to her expression, all to get people to clamor over it because he thinks it's easy to draw people in that way. Also,
I've heard that you destroy your art once they outlive their usefulness. Did that include my mother as well?
She just so happened to have a seizure in front of me. That's when a thought crossed my mind. If I don't call for help and leave her be, I could obtain her painting without any strings attached.
No. You let her die?
She was physically weak. No one would doubt if she just dropped dead because of a seizure.
So, while the personal level of hatred doesn't quite reach that of Kamoshida, this guy at least killed someone. Maybe not directly, but he was complicit by choosing to do nothing at the time. Now, Yusuke has no more reason to forgive him, so it's time to put him down. Shadow Madarame turns himself into some freaky looking paintings of his face, and well, it's not as bad of a fight, though I also spent time grinding and getting Confidant skills. What you're supposed to do is hit the eyes and nose with physical attacks and the mouth with magic. Since you should have attacks that hit everything, it's easy to get rid of the eyes and nose before going after the mouth, since the mouth is less likely to revive the other pieces. Once they're all down, Shadow Madarame returns, complains about society for a bit, and you do an all-out attack on him. Damage is increased on him, and he even has his own version of Megiddo that's pretty weak. Considering it's an almighty elemental attack, which can't be resisted by nearly every enemy in the game, that's sad when he can't even recreate something pretty strong. After a couple cycles, I was able to take him down, and of course, Shadow Madarame claims that no one cares for true art, just recognizable brands.
The art world revolves around money after all. You can't rise up without any money. Yusuke, you understand, don't you? Being a poor artist is truly miserable.
Maybe, and money is needed to live after all. It doesn't excuse the methods of which you've been using though. After telling him to return and confess his crimes, he mentions something about someone with a black mask. That'll be something to ponder about later, but for now we take the treasure and leave. And it becomes a more natural-looking portrait of the original Sayuri. Yusuke is sad that even once Madarame confesses his crimes, no one will truly be able to appreciate this Sayuri. Still, he intends to continue helping us, since it might expand his artistic vision, and we continue on with our lives till the deadline comes up. Toward the end of it, though, Ryuji convinces us into trying this maid service hotline that I think is more of a sex hotline, since you can get them to do just about anything. And they even get Mishima involved since he wants to use it for research. Yeah, just some high school students doing a dirty act. What could possibly go wrong? Well, they get someone to come by, but they chicken out, leaving you alone with the maid, who is also Kawakami. Reasonably enough, she took this job so she can earn more money, and there is a reason for it, which we learn from her later as a confidant. Yep, we get the homeroom teacher as a confidant, not helped by the fact that this is being treated like a master and servant type deal. Maybe while she's in character, since she seems normal when opening up to you about her past, but still, she's a romance option, like most female confidants, so it can be pretty awkward. The sad thing is, she has some really good perks. She can occasionally call a teacher away so you can either read, study, or craft in class. You can call her up to do laundry as armor can appear dirty, and cleaning them makes them usable. Have her make coffee or curry once you unlock the ability through Soljiro. And the best one of all, a massage that lets you do a nighttime activity even after going into the metaverse. Also, I think every service from that point on becomes free instead of charging you 5,000 yen for it, especially since she learns that you're a phantom thief and wishes to continue supporting you as you did her. In fact, screw it, let's go over the confidants now, and real quickly at that. Many don't show up till later, but who cares? Kawakami's development is that she has guilt for seemingly letting one of her students die after she told him she couldn't tutor him anymore, and was paying these jackass relatives money like it's extortion. For a Y, the weapon salesman who offers gun customization and at cheaper prices, he has a son and is trying to keep his life as a former Yakuza member a secret from him. Takumi, who provides more potent medicine over time, was trying to develop a drug to save a friend of hers, but someone blamed her after they attempted to take credit from her. Yoshida, who gives you better negotiation skills to get better items, money, and the ability to obtain high-level personas through talking, is trying to reform after being involved in scandals years ago. Like Mishima, you don't need a persona to raise his rank. And don't worry, we'll get to Mishima in the next video. Then there's Hifumi, who teaches you how to swap party members in battle and how to escape better, who is a shogi player who wants to play for fun, but her mother tries to make her a sensation. Oda, who teaches you some gun skills that are very helpful in starting combat or negotiations, is a gamer who believes that only the strong get ahead in life, but learns to have empathy. Caroline and Justine, who open up more Velvet Room services over time by giving them the right personas with the certain skills they want, start recalling things that don't make sense to them, as if they had something else to help you with instead of what they're doing now. And lastly, since there are a few I can introduce through plot, Soljiro, who teaches you how to make better coffee and curry that restores SP, but we learn of his struggles regarding a certain someone trying to get custody over someone we'll meet later. In any event, Madarame confesses to his crimes, so now most of Japan knows about the Phantom Thieves and how they made this famous artist confess his heart out. We think good of this, since we can give people courage to those in need, which is all well and fine for what this game is trying to convey. More on that later though, but anyway, more scenes with that director and his reacting to the bald guy on TV, who is aiming to become Prime Minister. Yep, totally not evil at all. Makoto continues to be egged on by the principal to find information, despite it looking like it isn't for a just cause. At least she isn't coming off as bad, but the expectations placed on her are, especially when she learns that students are being scammed out of money. Could this relate to the next guy we're going after? Anyway, field trip time! We head to a TV studio where a guy hits on, and we have to do some work. But now it's time for everyone's favorite pancake lover.
I happened to be passing by, so it seemed polite to greet you. We'll be filming together, after all. Where are my manners? My name is Goro Akechi. So you're going to go have cake now? I missed lunch today, so I'm quite hungry myself.
Huh? Cake? What are you talking about?
Oh, am I mistaken? I thought I heard something about delicious pancakes.
And that's why we call him Pancake Boy. Anyway, he seems nice enough. Until we hear his opinion about the Phantom Thieves and their effect on society.
What the artist Madarame did truly was an unforgivable crime. However, they're taking the law into their own hands by judging him. It is far from justice. More importantly, you should never forcefully change a person's heart.
Yeah, I'd say he's like Flynn from Vesperia, but here he's a bit more condescending regarding issues with us taking the law into our own hands. Again, we act because no one else is doing anything, and if they would only listen and change things, we wouldn't be doing this in the first place. But at least Flynn acknowledged Yuri for knowing that he's doing things he couldn't do himself, while Akechi becomes increasingly hostile with our efforts for social reform. Still, he ends up forming a bond with you, since even though your opinions clash with his, he likes getting to know you. He becomes a confidant, though he doesn't provide any perks. Yet. Otherwise, his influence is causing people to doubt our efforts. For now, Yusuke left his dorm because he didn't think he could make art from there. You invite him to your place, and this becomes the first time Soljiro gets to meet any of your friends. He was strict before, but seeing such lively people with you is warming him up to you, for being a nice kid. An even convinces him to let Yusuke stay here. Though the next morning, Yusuke decides to leave because in order for him to change, he needs to open up to more people. He does leave the Sayuri with Soljiro though, thinking it belongs here. Before that though, we enjoy some nice hot pot and go over each other's past, including yours, which provides a better look at what happened after you bumped into the bald guy, causing him to fall on his own. Despite the woman saying she'd back you up since he was attacking her, the bald guy says that with his ties with the police and courts, he could make it easy to discredit them and do worse things to her if she doesn't cooperate. It's a case where a victim knows what's wrong, but she has no choice but to do nothing unless she wants to get hurt. It's another relatable situation where victims of abuse are unable to say anything right away because people will just side with the accused.
The woman sounds quite horrible as well. She stayed quiet this whole time.
Or because of comments like that where they'll get blamed no matter what. What was it On said earlier?
If we continue doing this, we'll definitely be able to give courage to everyone who needs it.
You'd think you would be more aware of people being afraid to speak up. That doesn't mean they're terrible, especially when you don't know everything that happened. Sends a rather mixed message, wouldn't you think? Also, Makoto sees the previous Akechi event on TV and questions if it's truly a crime to get people to confess to their own crimes. Sai seems to believe so and then reminds her that she doesn't need to worry about anything other than to get higher in life since they're women and they need to work harder to get to ideal positions than men. This just further makes Makoto uneasy. Either way, she calls you in because she managed to record our earlier conversation about being Phantom Thieves. But rather than report you right away, she has you go to your friends so she can make an offer regarding the extortions with the classmates. It involves a Mafia boss, and if we're to prove to her that our actions are just, she won't report us. Thus, we have about 2 weeks to steal that Mafia guy's heart before she reports us. Though unlike last time, this is mandatory. You learn that the students are doing drug runs, and you later learn how they're doing it over the next few days. At least you get nighttime activities, though later the amount of days where you go unable to do anything increase at an alarming rate. Ryuji thinks she's only doing this to increase her reputation, but we know better. She's trying to satisfy everyone, even if it pains her to do it. Still, we have no leads, but then we remember that one journalist from outside Madarame's place and try to get into contact with her. She agrees to meet with you in Shinjuku, at a bar in the Red Light District. Obviously, this is no place for kids like us, and no one's buying we're old. You do run into a later confidant, Chihaya, who will read your fortunes that can increase money earned from an all-out attack, or even add points toward other confidants, and whose development involves the business she's in and she thinks fate can't be changed until you start doing that yourself. Otherwise, you enter the bar, run by Lala Escargot. She's kind and protective of her most frequent customer, Oya, who as a confidant can decrease how much the security level goes up and stuff, and who is trying to look into a certain case that her friend was in. But Lala doesn't take crap from anyone, and even the most disrespectful people know to respect her pronouns. As for Oya, she tells you the name of the Mafia boss, Junya Kaneshiro, in exchange for providing her with details on the Phantom Thieves from time to time. We go to leave with Ryuji and... Yeah, time to talk about these two. Now, we all know that Atlas is pretty bad when it comes to LBGT plus representation. Most notable, starting with Persona 3, you get stuff that comes off as a bit phobic. Of course, there was that attempt to make Kanji a positive gay character, though that obviously isn't handled well given all the jokes they make with him. They were better off just making Yu Narakami or Teddy the only bisexual characters. But then you have this game that gives us two queer guys who not only sexually harass you, but they seem to take Ryuji away for an unseen event. And they attempt this not once, but twice. It's like playing into the fear that queer people want to molest children, and it's a terrible stigma to use. Atlas at least knows how to maybe write a good LBGT plus character, as in Catherine. I hear Erica was their best attempt at a trans woman. She was never the butt of anyone's jokes, and she is legitimately likable. The only controversy around her is how the game dead names her in some of the credits and art books. Plus how the story might have hinted at her being trans, but for the most part, people really liked her. But then Full Body came out and Atlas added things to mess with her further. I would want to think that Atlas just doesn't know better and they want to give actual representation, but whatever the reason, it's never a good look for them when stuff like this happens. It was 2016 when it happened, and even then we should be long past these types of jokes. I know I'm guilty of having done this myself long ago, and I'm sorry for it. So it's a point that you need to learn what's funny and what's distasteful. Anyway, we got the name, so we can start guessing keywords. We managed to get bank, and as for location, we come to the conclusion that if everything happening to people is here, then it must be all of Shibuya. Sure enough, we get a hit and find everyone is an ATM machine. Those who can't provide money break down and die. But where is all the money going to?
Is that it?
Huh, that explains a lot. Can't be touched by police if you don't know where the money is going, except by looking up. Either way, we can't get to it right now. Though Makoto might end up being useful, as after a dinner with her sister that leads to an argument over whether or not their father would support the Phantom Thieves, she becomes more determined to help by confronting Kaneshiro herself. Using our phones, we do what we can to follow her, and soon enough we meet the man himself, having done something to Makoto already.
I'm royally pissed right now. Can you tell? You know how spending money relieves stress? It's you goddamn brats sniffing around like dogs and barging in here like you own the joint. See this empty space? I'm so pissed that now there's a 3 million yen gap here.
Well, in fairness, we were only following our friend. Who thought she could take you down a peg? We could have restrained her if that's what you wanted. Of course, he takes the opportunity to get a photo of us, with drugs and alcohol in the background. This is blackmail for repay with the 3 million yen you owe me, or else the photos get leaked online. This becomes our new incentive, and the deadline actually extends another 2 weeks because of it. Still, Makoto apologizes for what she did, and she blames herself for wanting to be more useful to her sister and everyone around her. She even admits to something that was brought up by An earlier, that she had to have known about Kamoshida's actions, but did nothing of it. Of course, this is her chance to start atoning, since now that she's a special customer to Kaneshiro, that should change his cognition of us. Sure enough, after going into the metaverse and explaining what this all is to her, she acknowledges that the bank will have to let her in and it comes to us. It even gives us a stairway to climb on. So now we're on the bank grounds and we actually get allowed in by the shadows, since Makoto wants to speak with the owner. We meet Shadow Kaneshiro, who looks a bit neater than his real life self, though that's probably how he sees himself. A wealthy businessman who believes he can do whatever he pleases because he has money, and believes he can use Makoto to control her sister. All because they're women. With all the money at his disposal, he can do whatever he wants, hire whoever he wants, kill whoever he wants. What's Makoto gonna do about this?
Shut your damn mouth, you money-grubbing asshole!
Have you decided to tread the path of strife?
Yes. Come to me!
Very well. Let us proceed with our contract at once. I am thou. Thou art I. You have finally found your own justice. Please, never lose sight of it again. This memorable day marks your graduation from your false self.
What the hell?
And with that, she gains Johanna, who isn't just a persona, but her own motorcycle.
You better earn your keep, or else I'll kill you!
I will not lose heart again. Ever. I'll go full speed, non-stop. Right, Johanna?
This is part of why she's best girl. She's totally awesome! While a brawler, meaning she has some physical attacks, she also has nuclear spells at her disposal, and she can shoot down enemies with revolver guns. With that, we have our new member, who will act as sort of our advisor. Like a queen, wouldn't you say? As for this palace, it's kind of like Madarame's, but with security cameras that either stay on or blink on and off. There are buttons you can destroy to shut them off. Otherwise, I can't say much else about the general layout, but I do like the music in this one. Tends to do well with its music tracks, often keeping close to the general theme of the story while adding variety when the situation calls for it. Well, so far, Persona 4 has had more track variation for the social life stuff. I do appreciate the variations of Beneath the Mask, with lyrics that play during the night.
Where have you been searching all along, confessing while alone and on, without this masquerade, hiding both face and mind, all free for you to drown.
This and some others are sung by Lin Inazumi, and I love the mix of jazz and I think disco-like music. The main battle music seems like it when it gets to the more famous part of the song.
You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes.
The only problem is it takes a bit before it gets to that first good part, as it's a bit of a slow build-up, and by the time a fight is over, you would have missed it. In other games, the tone of the song is consistent no matter when you end a fight, so it ends on a high note. Here it doesn't happen a lot, so it doesn't always come off as an effective battle theme. Still, for capturing mood, most of the tracks do their part, though they could have used a bit more. Getting back to the palace, we have situations where we have to lure guards away from vault doors that lead further in, and of course, a situation involving a massive basement with tons of vaults. How are we gonna find the treasure? Well, luckily, it's designed more like a combination lock where you can turn it in certain directions to get it fully unlocked, as the treasure is in the dead center, using letters that equal numbers, and each seem to correspond with how Kaneshiro sees himself. He's only worth it if he has the money. Kinda like the last palace with Madarame. In fact, this is sort of a problem people have with how the villains are treated. It's supposed to be an increase in urgency to take them down for crimes that are worse than the previous. Except on a personal level, none feel as important or urgent as Kamoshida. And I think that's due to how long we spent building him up and how he affected those around him the most. But it's also the most relatable case because you or anyone else you know would have likely experienced the sort of sexual harassment and abuse he committed. That doesn't make the other problems of society any less legit, with displaying parental abuse or having to work your life away paying debt. It's just they don't get as much time to really matter at that personal level. Not to mention, if this game was trying to dig into problems that affect society's outcasts, why are we only sticking to just the standard people you see in any game? So far, only An and Yusuke fit into any kind of marginalized group, as one is biracial and gets treated differently because of her looks and upbringing, thus her resolve to actually work without relying on those, while Yusuke has trouble understanding how and why people react differently from what he expects, hence his need to improve his artwork and his knowledge of the world. And also, he might be bisexual because of some of his quotes, but still. Ryuji only has a single mother he tries to make happy despite the abusive ex-husband and his insistence to stand up to bad adults as a delinquent, Ren and daring to help others in need, and Makoto having too much expectations out of people. You could say they're still outcasts, but it's stuff you can find anywhere. People are more expecting to see characters who aren't just pretty faces with ideal builds you see everywhere. They want to see some with a little more weight, have different skin color, etc, etc. It's a fair criticism and expectation when they boast about social reform, because those in marginalized groups have it worse than those who likely have more privilege than they think they have. One argument you could say is that they're using their privilege to help others, and that's still important to have, since if they have the ability to do stuff, they should use it to help others. And fine, we need to be able to use our gifts and powers to benefit those unable to do so normally, even if it's by supernatural means, but it would really be nice to actually put effort into showing off more progressive normalities and give people the attention they deserve. And no, the "this is Japan, not Western culture" excuse doesn't cut it when they too have similar issues that are worth challenging. Point is, Atlas, you need to do better when covering social issues and not cut corners. Anyway, we get to the treasure in the deepest part of the palace, so time to send the card. After that, instead of any traps, we just confront Kaneshiro directly, as now he has another safe in front of the treasure. Blah blah blah, money's the only thing that matters and who will rule society. It's the rich elite who are at fault, even if I'm targeting poor people. Just transform already.
Holy shit! What the hell?
Okay, 1, how could you be surprised by this when you're his cognitions? And 2, did he just turn into Fly Hitler? I'm not even trying to joke here. With that mustache and haircut, even if it's reversed, he seems like he could be the Fly version of him. And this is from the creators who gave us their own version of Hitler in one of the games. So phase 1, he fights us directly with dark spells and a move that causes fear. Eventually though, he decides to open the safe to reveal a giant-ass piggy bank. Piggytron, as it's called, is a rather dangerous tank that can do widespread damage, but it seems to attack in a pattern. First it does AoE, then it does a single attack, then Shadow Kaneshiro gets out to do the Moscow dance on it, so he can roll the thing onto us in a couple turns. Unless we decide to hit him enough times, then we need to destroy the machine to win. Another way to distract him is to have one of your party members toss an item out. If it's valuable enough, he'll take it and hide in his machine to gloat while you dish out damage or heal. Eventually we win, and the treasure is shown to be gold bars. Go figure.
I'm not gonna let anyone have it. This is my money.
You stole it all from innocent people.
Fine. I'll call off the debt.
Fine? You're still sounding pretty condescending.
You're right. I'm a poor, ugly idiot. How am I supposed to live a normal life like this? It's all because of our society. We people can't lead a happy life, no matter what they do. I'm a victim too, you know. Yeah, none of this is my fault.
And again, it doesn't excuse crappy behavior. You should have used your power and wealth to help those in need, not become the thing you hate. So while it's looking like he'll atone, he still acts a bit condescending as he tells us about the black masked intruder. So there is someone else besides us who could be responsible for the mental shutdowns. Not like we'll get anything out of him, so we take the bars and leave.
Wait, there's no road! You guys are so careless.
Oh, I think I cracked my ass.
On, are you alright? Is yours cracked as well?
Of course not!
Thank goodness nobody was hurt.
I wouldn't say nobody.
Press F to pay respects. So the treasure manifested as a gold briefcase filled with 30 million yen. Just kidding, it's children's bank money. Guess it shows that he wanted to act tough. But at least we can sell the case though. Unlike last time, we immediately see that the director is involved in the mental shutdowns, and Kaneshiro called Makoto and said he deleted the photos and called off the debt. We still have to wait for the deadline to finish, even though he already turned himself to the police. But with all that said, things turned out okay. Makoto intends to open up more to people and see their point of view through her Confidant events. She also tells the principal off and claims she'll achieve her goals without him, and Akechi is pissed. All is right in the world. What sort of target will we go after next? And what will our villains be doing? Find out next time.
Alright, fireworks festival it is. Let's look for a good one.
Study comes first, though. I won't let you off if you fail any of them. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am. Hey!